Hello everyone, welcome to the theory class. Today we're going to be covering 5. So before we get started, let's go ahead and do our evaluation covering lesson 34. All right, number 1 is addiction. Her addiction was a problem. Number 2, splurge. Let's splurge and buy a coffee. Number 3, section. What section did you sit in? Number 4, fiction. Is that book fiction or nonfiction? Okay, number 5 is square. Draw a square. Number 6, reflex. Do you have a good reflex? Number 7, conviction. Conviction. Number 8, collection. Collection. Number 9, select. Select. Number 10, squeamish. Squeamish. Number 11 is direction. Direction. Number 12 is reflection. Reflection. Number 13 is connect. Connect. Number 14 is subtraction. Subtraction. And number 15 is squirrel. Squirrel. All right, let's look at those on our board here. Number 1 is addiction. So you're going to strike the A, come back for D-I, BGS with the flag. Okay, because you've got your cushion here, so you don't want it to look like a final X. Okay, number 2, splurge, S-P-L-U-R, final J. Number 3, section, S, flag, E, BGS. If you leave out the flag, it's going to look like sex. Number 4, fiction, F, flag, I, BGS. If you leave out the flag, it looks like fix. Okay, number 5, square, S-K-W, long A-R, square. Number 6, reflex, R-E, come back for F-L-E, final X. Number 7, conviction, K-O-N, come back for V-I-B-G-S with the flag. Number 8 is collection, K-L, flag, E-B-G-S, collection. Number 9, select, S-L-E-K. Number 10, squeamish, S-K-W-A-E-M, come back for I-S-H. Number 11, direction, D-R, flag, E-B-G-S. Number 12, reflection, R-E, come back for F-L, flag, E-B-G-S. Number 13, connect, K-E-K, keck. Number 14, subtraction, S-U-B, come back for T-R-A with the flag, B-G-S. And number 15, squirrel, S-K-W-I-R-L. All right, so if you had any trouble with those, please go back and practice before you start this next lesson. All right. So today we're going to be covering lesson 35, and you will see on your handout in 35.1 it says final FL for words ending in LF and LVE. So we're going to use our final FL. Okay, so basically, get over here. For words ending in ulf and olv, we're reversing the letters to write FL. So elf would be spelled ELF, but we're going to write it as EFL because the F comes before the L. Okay, so let's look at some of our words. So we've got elf, EFL, elf. Golf, GOFL. Gulf, GUFL, gulf. Shelf, SHEFL. Delve, and again, that's a final LVE word, olv, but we're still using the final FL. DEFL, delve. Resolve, RE, and then come back for SOFL. Self, SEFL. Solve, SOFL. Valve, VAFL. Itself, initial T, come back for SEFL. Herself, HER, come back for SEFL. Himself, HIM, come back for SEFL. Oneself, WUN, come back for SEFL. Myself, M short I, come back for SEFL. Ourselves, now notice that that is plural. So you're going to do the same thing, come back for final Z like you would any other plural word. So you're going to write that as OUR, come back for SEFL. Ourselves, come back for final Z. Yourself, YUR, come back for SEFL, yourself. Yourselves, again, it's the same way, just coming back for that final Z. Then we have themselves, THEM, come back for SEFL, and then come back for final Z. Now, if you notice that for some reason your dictionary is not translating the plural correctly, meaning that it's showing yourselves as YOURSELFS, it needs to be changed in your dictionary. So you can either change that now while you're in theory, or you can wait until you get into speeds. You're almost in speeds. You're going to be changing things and adding things in your dictionary. So sometimes I hear students say that it's not, the plural form is not, it's not correctly modifying and changing it from the F to the V. So if it's not doing that, then you just want to correctly add that to your dictionary, okay? So you might see that with themselves, ourselves, yourselves, any of the plural, okay? Obviously with the plural, we change it from yourself, YOURSELF to YOURSELVES, okay? All right, so let's look over at 35.2. We've got practice sentences using our new words. And I'm just going to jump through the sentences that I want to point out something to you. Again, I recommend that you practice those words in 35.1 before you start your sentences. It just makes your homework a lot easier. Run through, do like a run through before you actually start your homework, okay? All right, so let's look at line 4. It says, Jerry acts self-assured. You'll notice self-assured is hyphenated. So because you know it's hyphenated, you want to use your hyphens. You're going to write self, S-E-F-L, and then come back for initial H, final F for the hyphen, and then come back for assured. Now, if that were dictated to you and if you weren't sure that there is a hyphen there, you wouldn't worry about it. You would edit that and add the hyphen in the edit mode if that were a test. okay? But because you're physically looking at it and you see a hyphen, you know that you need to write your hyphen, which is initial H, final F. Same with the next sentence over. File it if you are self-employed. You see self-employed is hyphenated, so you're going to use your initial H, final F. All right, now let's look at that same sentence. File it if you are. If you are cannot be phrased because it conflicts with fur. So what I like to do is tell students to, in theory, choose if you want to hyphenate if you or you are. But once you get into speeds, I would suggest that you flag and add this to your dictionary, but flag fur, like the dog has fur. Flag that F-U-R with the flag, and then go ahead and phrase if you are, or vice versa. You can flag the phrase if you are and just write fur as F-U-R, because they both come up, especially the phrase if you are. So I would definitely flag one of those. Okay, now let's look down at line 7, second sentence over. It says, Mary baked the pie herself. Mary. We have the proper name Mary, and then we also have Mary as in he wants to marry her. So Mary, he wants to marry her would be M, long A-R, come back for A-E. So what we do with the proper name Mary is we write it as M, long A-R, come back for A-E with the flag. And that's the way that we get around not having a conflict. And we have, that way we let our dictionary know we're talking about the proper name Mary. Okay. Now, if you have the other Mary, M-E-R-R-Y, meaning jolly, she is Mary, that would be M-E-R, come back for A-E. Okay. All right, moving on over to the next page. We've got 35.3 word practice. Today we're going to learn the initial Z. The initial Z is going to be written as SD. SD, so you're using your pinky and your ring finger on your left hand. Okay, that's how we write our initial Z, which you kind of already know because we've been doing our stitching and alphabet and all of that. But today we're going to practice those words. So it says SD on the initial side for initial Z. Now, the first 5 sentences will show and have you practice the difference between initial Z and initial S. And they do that so you get the practice between the two and kind of get to realize how important it is that you write an initial Z if it's a Z and not use an S, because it could be a conflict. So let's look at the first sentence. We have zinc. And then if you look over at the next word, it's sink. So if you don't use the Z for zinc, you're going to get sink. All right, and again, we have to flag these because they're final NK words, the unk. Okay, so zinc, SD, or we'll call it initial Z, flag, final NK, zinc. And then we have sink, initial S, flag, I, NK. I think I forgot to say the I in zinc. Sorry about that. All right, but don't forget to flag it because it's an NK word. Otherwise, sink would look like sing if you didn't flag it. Line 2, zeal. We've got initial Z, A-E-L, and then we have seal, S-A-E-L. So that's the difference between the two. Zip, initial Z, I-P, and sip, S-I-P. Zag, initial Z, A-G, and sag, S-A-G. Zit, initial Z, I-T, and sit, S-I-T. Okay, now the rest of these are just initial Z words. So we have Zoom, initial Z, A-O-M. Zany, initial Z, long A-N, come back for A-E. Zero, initial Z, long E-R, come back for long O. Zoo, initial Z, A-O. Zone, initial Z, long O-N. Zesty, initial Z, E, F, T, come back for A-E. Don't forget your final FT for final ST words. Okay. All right. Zealot, initial Z, A-E-L. come back for OT. Zebra, initial Z, long EB, come back for RA. Zenith, initial Z, long E, come back for NIGT. Zenith. Zigzag, initial Z, IG, come back for initial Z, AG, zigzag. Then we have zircon, zeppelin, zest, again, initial Z, E, F, T. We're using the F for the S. Zephyr, initial Z, E, Effer. Zinnia, initial Z, I, N, come back for initial YA. There's one of those Y words, Zinnia. Okay. Zodiac, initial Z, long OD, come back for YA, final K. Zodiac. All right. 35.4, you've got practice sentences. Again, I'm just going to point out the ones that have a word that I need to point out. If you look at line 7, it says, what is your zip code? You need to flag that so that you tell your dictionary you want it capitalized. Otherwise, it'll just look like zip, as in zip up the dress. All right, line 10, first sentence says, use your zoom lens. Lens is written as L-E-N-Z. It's all in one stroke, L-E-N-Z, because it's not considered a plural. The Z is part of the word, or excuse me, the S is part of the word. So we use the final Z, lens. Okay, so we don't just say len, so that's why we write it all in one word, kind of like the proper name James. The S is part of the name, so we use the final Z. All right. Line 11, a zealot is a fanatical partisan. Now, partisan, you have the choice. You can either write it, you can either write it as P-A-R-T, come back for S-A-N, partisan, or P-A-R-T, come back for initial Z-A-N. Just depends on what you hear, partisan or partisan. Okay, the rest of those sentences look good. Looking on over at 35.5, we've got briefs, new briefs. The first one is weather. I want to know whether you can go. That's going to be written as WHR, all on the initial side. Okay, and keep in mind, the word weather, as in what is the weather going to be like today, would be written as W-A-E-G-T, come back for E-R. Okay, request, initial K-W. Continue, initial T, final N. Continuation, initial T, final N, shun. Between, T-W-E-N, and that's a shorty. We write tween, as in a teenager, tween, as a long E. Accomplish is going to be written as P-L-I-S-H. Afternoon, A-F-er, final N, afternoon. Remit, R-E, final M-T. Observe, long O-B, O-E-B. And officer, initial S, final F-er, officer. All right. 35.6 is a brief drill. Make sure you separate each one with a comma. 35.7 are practice sentences using your new briefs. Let's go down to sentence 5. It says, Jimmy always remits on time. Jimmy is kind of like the word Mary. We have a regular word for Jimmy, as in to pry open, Jimmy it open, or Jimmy it loose. So what we have to do for Jimmy is flag the second stroke. So we'd write it as J-I-M, come back for A-E with the flag. All right, and that way, if the word Jimmy comes up, then you don't have a conflict with the proper noun, Jimmy. And the same goes with Harry. You might hear the proper name Harry as opposed to the dog is Harry. You got to flag the second stroke, the AE. Mary, we talked about. And candy, that's another good example. I ate the candy, and then candy is my friend. Okay, so you want to make sure and flag the second stroke in a proper name. Okay. All right, 35.7 on the next page continues. Practice sentences are continued. They all look good. I don't think I have anything to really cover here. I guess the only thing I want to remind you of is line 22, second sentence over. It says, are they going to observe the whale? Just don't forget, whale, you're going to use your WH, long AL, whale. Okay. All right, let's go to 35.8. These are practice sentences, so this is a review, which is kind of nice that you have a review. And we do this because it's a lot to take in as far as the unk goes, flagging the unction, the cushion, and the shun. So let's go over those. Unk is going to be your NK with the flag. Unction, NKS with the flag. Cushion is going to be the K and the GS with the flag, so it doesn't look like a final X. And then shun is just GS, not flagged. So all of these sentences here are focusing on those 4 concepts. And if it helps you, go through and flag the words that have to be flagged. Put a little flag there. Okay, and that way it should help you when you're going through the sentences. Now let's look at line 8. It says you need a better depiction. The brief for better is BER. Okay. All right. Everything else there looks good. Looking on over at 35.8. Practice sentences continued again. It's the unction, cushion, and shun words continued. And I don't really see anything that I need to point out. Everything should be pretty self-explanatory because it is a review. So if you have questions about that, let me know. If you struggle with it, spend a little extra time on those. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and do our Q&A for the day. Q&A for the lesson 35 is going to be number 9. Again, I want you to practice with me reading to you. Okay. It's a whole different ball game when somebody is dictating to you as opposed to you reading it. It's also good to look down and you know, I want you to print these out and practice them, but it's very important to listen to the dictation and write to what you hear. Okay, so I want you to focus on the screen, not your hands. I don't want you to miss any sign changes. Okay, so this Q&A, we're actually going to start out with defense, and after I'm done reading it, I'm going to go over some of the punctuation that you would, the correct punctuation you would use if you were turning this in as a test. Okay, so I'm going to give you the attorney spelling, the spellings of their names, even though you have the handout, because I want you to get used to what you would see in a test in speeds. Okay, so if this were a test in speeds, I would say, okay, plaintiff attorney is going to be Mr. Dillon. Mr. Dillon, DILLION. Now, if this were a speed test, you would not be getting this little handout, so you would be writing this down, okay, on a piece of paper. Defense is Ms. MS period, Ms. Presley, PRESLEY. Okay, so let's do this again. Plaintiff is Mr. Dillon, Dilllion. And defense is Ms. MS period Presley, Pressely. Always write it down because I've seen Presley spelled as Pressly, Presly. There's all these different ways to spell names. Always write it down. Even if you know, even if it's Smith, write it down. Okay. You misspell an attorney's name, that's an automatic disqualification on a test. So you never want to do that. All right, so this Q&A is going to start with defense. So you're going to sign them in as if felt and then strike your question bank. I'm going to give you a word list after. So any proper names, you're going to write it phonetically. Okay. If you hear a word maybe that you've never heard before, just know that we've already covered this. I would not give you something that we haven't covered. So you're going to write it phonetically, okay? Or use your concepts that you've learned. All right, here we go. Ready? Mrs. Bishop, you told His Honor that you went up to Buffalo with your husband. Did you? Yes, ma'am. I did. And your husband is here in the courtroom. Is he not? Yes, ma'am. He is. And he was driving the car in which you were riding. Yes, ma'am. Is it not a fact that the convention that you spoke of was in Albany? No, ma'am. It was in Buffalo. It was in Buffalo, ma'am. Yes, sir. May I ask you, did you go to the falls? Oh, Yes. We went to the falls on Sunday. Okay. Now, the convention was long since over. Isn't that so? No, ma'am. The convention did not go into session until Saturday, which was the day we arrived. Mrs. Bishop, you started out on what day? Thursday or Friday? We started out on Friday. Then you drove north from here. Is that true? Yes, ma'am. All right. Did you? Well, not stop at Albany? No, I don't think we went through Albany. Excuse me. Then where did you stop for the night? We stopped at a motel, but I don't know exactly where it was. Okay, so then the next day you drove to Buffalo? Yes. The next morning we got up and drove to Buffalo. Was that Friday or Saturday? That was Saturday, Your Honor. Okay, so if you notice, I picked up the speed a little bit. And I did that because I want you to get used to, a little faster speed because you're going to be going into 60-80 soon. And I know it's going to seem a little challenging at first, but I promise you it will get easier. So each time you go into a new speed, it's going to seem very fast, but you can't get frustrated. Just know that every new speed is going to seem fast, But the more you practice, the faster you're going to get it. All of a sudden, one day it's going to start clicking. Okay, so if that seemed a little fast, it's okay. I think next, in our next class, I'm going to start reading the Q&As at 50 words a minute. And then probably toward one of our last lessons, I'll go to 60, just so you can kind of start to get a feel for what it sounds like, okay? And you can always print out your sheets and redo it if you want. But if you struggle with it, listen to it again, you know? Listen to it until you feel like you have it down, okay? All right, so let's go over this. Hopefully you have it in front of you, Q&A number 9. So obviously we had the defense attorney as the questioning attorney. And if this were a test, you would be getting Bishop. You wouldn't get Mrs. because it would be up to you to write it correctly, not Ms., but Mrs. Okay, so I would give you Bishop, I would give you Buffalo, Albany, Falls, any proper names unless they're spelled. So let's look at some of the punctuation. Now, let's look at line 1. It says Mrs. Bishop, comma, because it's a proper address. So you either comma it before or after. So Mrs. Bishop, comma, you told His Honor. His Honor is like your honor, so meaning the judge. So notice his is lowercase, but honor is capitalized, just like your honor. Okay, that you went up to Buffalo with your husband, comma, did you? So we're using a comma to comma off the question. Yes, comma, ma'am, comma, I did. Now remember what I told you about when we use a comma as opposed to a period, or vice versa. If the person strictly answers the question, we do use a comma. If they give any extra information, we use a period. Okay? So if she were to say, yes, ma'am, I did and went to the store, we would write that as yes, comma, ma'am, period. I did and went to the store, because she didn't ask if she went to the store. Okay. Notice that there's an apostrophe with ma'am. Make sure you make note of that. M-A'-A-M. Line 4, and your husband is here in the courtroom, comma, is he not? So comma off a question. Yes, comma, ma'am. Just like yes, sir, no, sir. We use commas there. Comma, he is. Okay. Let's see. Oh, line 13, the court comes in. So you're going to put that in all caps. You're going to tab over one time, put it in all caps. The court, colon, 2 spaces. It was in Buffalo, comma, ma'am. Ma'am is a direct address, just like a proper name. So you're going to use a comma there. And then line 14, the witness. The witness is anytime the witness is talking to the court, you identify them as the witness, even if you know what their name is and they say, my name is Sam Jones. You never put the witness as their name. It's the witness, all in caps, colon, 2 spaces. Okay, let's look at line 15. The court, colon, 2 spaces. May I ask you, comma, did you go to the falls? Line 17, the witness. Oh, comma, yes. Notice that there's a comma after O. Oh, comma, yes, period. Okay, line 19. Okay, okay, period. There's always a period after okay. Okay, period. Just like all right, period. Now, comma. All right. Line 21. No comma, ma'am, period. Line 23. Mrs. Bishop, comma. There's our direct address. You started out on what day? Comma, Thursday or Friday? I didn't remind you, up at line 19, notice that we've got a by line, by Ms. Presley. We had to re-identify her because she got interrupted by the court. Anytime that questioning attorney gets interrupted, you have to re-identify them, okay? All right, over on the next page. Then you drove north from here, semicolon, is that true? Same as, is that right? Is that correct? Is that true? You're going to need a semicolon before that. Line 4. All right, period. Did you not stop at Albany? And then line 5, no period. I don't think we went through Albany. Line 6, Mr. Dillon, plaintiff comes in and interrupts. Excuse me, period. Then where did you stop for the night? The witness. Notice that line 8 is the witness because he's answering the other attorney. He's not the questioning attorney at that time. Okay, so you identify him as the witness, not an answer. We stopped at a motel, comma, but I don't know exactly where it was. So make sure you have a comma there. If you have a complete sentence before and after the conjunction, so here we've got but, then we're going to use a comma. Okay, line 10, we have to re-identify the defense again by Ms. Presley, question. Okay, period. So then the next day you drove to Buffalo. Answer, yes, period. The next morning we got up and drove to Buffalo. So they're adding extra. They didn't ask when, like, did you leave in the morning? So you're going to use a period there. Yes, period. The next morning we got up and drove to Buffalo. Okay, the court comes in and interrupts. Was that Friday or Saturday? And then we use the witness because he's answering the court. That was Saturday, comma, Your Honor. It's a direct address, so use your comma there. All right, so make sure you keep all your copies of these Q&As because they're going to help you when you get into speeds and you go back and you're going to have a question on your punctuation when you go to write out your own test. So keep all of these in a binder. Okay, so that concludes our lesson 35. I will see you soon in the read back portion of the class. Have a great day.